Our Father, God in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those.
Don't lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil. For thine is the kingdom, and forever. Amen.
Petitions, notices, ask him talk sabe for 5 minutes. Honorable member Blow Khaira Kuhiri.
Question blomino stop the notice paper is me relate long boundaries commission, so I think by me asking put the prime minister, I think this la fall law underneath long portfolio blame too. But before me asking me like Toksave, give him some background or some boundaries commission, he conclude him round long law awareness, law make him this la work revisit long split law, some law big ply electorate. Now me believe electorate from me he qualified. Long all prerogative law have him 2+ separate electorate. Kairukuhiri is a vast electorate in Central Province with a total land mass of 10,820 square kilometers, with a population of over 121,584, which is 2011 census figures. So by now, if population increment is at 3.1%, would be in the vicinity of 170,000, close to 200,000 now. Of the 5 districts in Central Province, Rigo, Abao, Gualala, Kairuku, Nahiri, Tupla district one time, I Karamap long electorate Blomi. So think Blomi, mi hamamas long time Prime Minister make him announcement, now Boundaries Commission line kiss him funding, na go around long make him awareness walk. Mi Tupla Governor Blomi been concerned pinis long Kairuku district at Berena, na Mirigera long Hiri district, long split must come up. Law politic na nadla one you're right. But long service delivery, heavy 2 months long me one plan member long Karim 2 district one time. Especially long service delivery, na distribution of the DSIP funding. So ask him Blomi on behalf of people Blomi and also Prime Minister, now that the Boundaries Commission awareness is concluded, one time through by this report it come to Parliament, and how does the government view this report? By come up along this term of Parliament, or by me surukemi go along next term of Parliament, or people block Kairukuhiri like Save? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Question from the member for Kairukuhiri. The Electoral Boundaries Commission have done their job. I think the report is being finalized. I know we are running very late into our Parliament term in respect to the number of days we have for Parliament to sit, to give respect to the recommendations that's contained. From the preliminary reports that I've been briefed on, Kairukuhiri does qualify amongst 3 or 4 other electorates, and there's a heavy population in those electorates. And so let me assure the member, as soon as the report has been processed through Cabinet, the Parliament will have custody of this report and Parliament's deliberation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor of the Southern Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question without notice
is directed to the Minister for Commerce. I have 5 electorates, 20 LLGs, and I come from a very difficult law and order province. I have initiated the take-back process in our province as one of the major policy of government. We have no other resource, but we have a potato factory. And through that potato factory, I have been embarking, the provincial government has been embarking the policy of empowering and making our people useful in the communities. The former minister and the Department of Commerce, I have been having consultations after consultations. No one time by you support him or legally growers blomi long potato long empower him all. Because factory staff but potato price long factory go low now people blomi less lo work. And I said in previous caucus meetings, I said this importation, free importation of potato chips coming from Europe, coming from Australia, coming from New Zealand is affecting now Bagrawim potato lo factory where me get lo province blomi longan. This is a very serious matter. On one end, we are saying empowering our people through SME. I have a factory. We have potato farmers coming from Enga, from Western Highlands, from Jiwaka, and big plus something long country. The product is on the market already. Our people are disencouraged to go and work because price blow potato factory pay long and legally go less. I want to go and empower my people. I've had enough consultation with the department. From the 5 electorates I have registered, out of the 20 LLGs I have registered, two SME companies in the 20 LLGs. I want to launch this, empower my people. All this little works I'm in by making one. Whom will I go to? I'm now asking the department. I've had consultations. Can we stop this importation of free, cheap potatoes from Europe, from New Zealand, Australia, so that we have a good, fair price in our country? You like you blood talking me, na talk savalong people blow me. Although governor, you giving me blood seed potato seeds, go come. People let's work here. Price I mean good blood. This is important. We need to support our factory on the ground. People are empowered. I'm prepared to go and empower my people. So me like minister and government, take note of this plan now. Give me assurance. One time by you plus stop him this free importation of cheap potatoes from Europe, from Australia, from New Zealand, so that our people are encouraged to work and they get a fair price of this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister of Commerce.
Mr. Speaker, me no question, can he ask his question? What's his question?
Honorable Governor, Honorable Minister, he asked him also, no harim good. Just like ask him, you ask him, yes, so I mean like him, you ask him, Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me no sabe, me be singat na ask him, and also ask him long and me ask him, yeah. Me talk also previous minister staff. One time department, he get institutional memory. My provincial government has been having difficulty with the factory on the ground and encouraging my people to grow potatoes. My question is that because there's a free importation of chips from Europe freely, from Australia and New Zealand on a very lower prices, it's discouraging our people to go and work because factory no pay him good price. So me ask him, as part of the government take back, empower him on legal man, the resource. long enough government stop him this free import of chips, of potatoes from Europe, and they need the bilateral relations. So one of them relationship like that longen. They have free influx of potatoes into this country from Europe, from New Zealand, from Australia. Now, because of this free, and they are being sold cheaply on the market, potato factory will man very hard work long enough, only no some good price. So you want our people, you know, me ask him lo name long, all people blow me. Me blow like some good price. Enough government look long this blah. Issue blow free importation of potato chips when we have the factory on the ground. So Minister Blow Commerce, am all right, through you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the good governor for Southern Islands for asking an important question. Mr. Speaker, it's an important question, and I don't want to mislead Parliament. Can I seek permission to get information from my department? I know you have had a series of meetings without department, so Mikisim talks away, and then I'll report to Parliament tomorrow. Thank you.
Honorable Governor Blong, NCD.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, giving me opportunity to ask a question without notice. My question is directed at the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, today, 1st of December, is the 60th anniversary in which West Papua declared independence, this time in 1961. When they declared independence in 1961, they had their official flag raised, the Morning Star. They had a legislature already in place, the West New Guinea Council. They also had an executive government, a standing army, and all the national symbols of a state, including their national anthem, Aitanaku Papua, O My Land Papua. Their territorial boundaries was precise and demarcated. Mr. Speaker, then in 1962, we all know Indonesia invaded, and the rest is history. Since then, we have adopted a policy that, may I say, is shameful and unethical. Hiding under a policy of friends to all, enemy to none, Mr. Speaker, might be a good policy against the rest of the world. But it's a total capitulation to Indonesian aggression, illegal occupation. It's more, Mr. Speaker, may I say, a policy of see no evil, speak no evil, and say no evil against the evil of Indonesia. So much has happened since, Mr. Speaker. We should be bordering on our conscience. How do we sleep at night when our people on the other side are subject to so much violence, racism, deaths, and destruction? How can we call ourselves Christians when fellow Christians are subject to so much abuses on their own land? How can we hold ourselves high as the biggest Melanesian state when the other half of our land, who we share the same ancestors, same culture, languages, tradition, songs, dance, rivers, mountains, and seas, continue to live as if they don't exist? In the recent past, Mr. Speaker, priests have been killed, thousands of people have fled their homes and become internal refugees. Some have crossed over to our side of this island. One land. No one has complained or expressed concern or uttered protest. And at this juncture, Mr. Speaker, I want to note Prime Minister raising the concern at the United Nations. I give credit to him. Even the people who crossed over recently are from the same tribe as the Min people on our side, speaking same languages, sharing same ancestry, and we have not said much, nothing. So, Mr. Speaker, that's the context to my question. I will ask my questions now. Number one, Are we going to revise our policy towards West Papua and adopt a more ethical, morally courageous policy? Number 2, do we have plans to raise the matter in the Melanesian Spear Group? And if so, when? And what would be our position in the MSG? Number 3, what have we done or plan to do to apply pressure on Indonesia to allow the United Nations human rights rapporteurs to visit the territory to inquire into specific human rights complaint and the general human rights condition in West Papua, consistent with the resolution of the Pacific Islands Forum in 2019. And I give credit also in that respect to Prime Minister raising it at the Pacific Islands Forum in 2019. Number 4, what steps are we doing to assist the ACP countries escalate the resolution adopted in Nairobi, Kenya, on West Papua to the United Nations? And on this note too, I give credit to former Foreign Minister, member for Aitapelumi, and a member for Esala, was the Justice Minister at the time. They were courageous, Mr. Speaker. They were courageous and they raised the issue. It's now a resolution of 192 countries of the Asia, Africa, Pacific, and Caribbean countries. Number 5 question. Considering that Papua New Guinea is a key member of MSG, and MSG has recognized the United Liberation Movement for West Papua as an observer member at the MSG, what plans do we have to provide support to the United Liberation Movement for West Papua? Can we allocate them funds from our budget? Or can we allocate them space here in PNG to set up an office so that they can pursue their legitimate right to self-determination? Mr. Speaker, imagine in 1974, when Grand Chief Samare got our House of Assembly to declare us as a self-government or self-governing state, and Indonesia invaded and nobody uttered a word. Imagine where we would be now. Imagine too, Mr. Speaker, that in 1980, when the French manipulated Jimmy Stevens to do this, whatever, secession in Espiritu Santo. And we must give credit to Sir Julius Chen, he was the Prime Minister then. Without the Kumul Force intervention, maybe Vanuatu would not be independent now. This is the dilemma, the plight that the West Papuans find themselves. And we continue to remain silent. We continue to live in fear. We continue to allow fear to dictate our policy and our action. When are we going to summon the courage to talk and speak? Why are we afraid of Indonesia?
We have a point of order. We have a point of order, Governor.
Mr. Speaker, with greatest respect to the Governor for NCD, standing order clearly says that questions cannot be challenged at government policies or make inferences or inorders or references and assumptions. These are sovereignty matters. The Governor has every right to ask questions. He should get straight to the question instead of continuing on making statements that borders into government policy, that borders into inorders and inferences. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order is in order, Governor. Point of order with Prime Minister Mgim, is in order. You don't have talk policy block up man at the scheme. You go straight ask him you na Minister by him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The question will be finished. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the Honorable Governor for NCD for this series of very important questions that affects our people on this side as to how they relate to our people on the other side. And obviously, it's a sovereign issue, as Prime Minister has alluded to. In the interest of both the Governor as well as those
of our people who are interested in this important issue, I'd like to ask the governor to put that in writing so that I can appropriately respond in a like manner in order to do justice to the questions that have been raised. These are very important questions. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to give my assurance, and to the governor, I'd like to take this matter back to Cabinet to deliberate and make its own position on the issue, because it's not the issue for Foreign Affairs Minister to make. It's again sovereign issue, and that requires collective decision of the government. So with that, I thank the governor for raising these very important issues. Thank you, sir.
The Honourable Governor for Eastern Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question without notice is directed to the Minister for Planning. Before I proceed with the question, I'd like to thank the Prime Minister and this government for release of PIP funds to Eastern Highlands Province, beginning of February. My question, before I ask the question, I want to say that the PIP funds for Eastern Highlands Province were captured in the 2021 budget and reflected in the provincial budget 2021. However, those funds were given directly to the districts for the implementation of PIP funds. Most of those projects were the submission from my office, and we pictured how the roads will be like in 3 or 4 years. And it was spread over a period of 3 years to fully fund these roads. When the roads were given to the districts, my question is this: the province is finding difficulties in monitoring those projects because the warrant was released directly to the districts, not to the province as per the budget. So does the national planning has the capacity? Does national planning has the capacity to monitor those projects and to ensure that the project as per the scope, spread over a period of 3 years or so, can be fully implemented as desired by my government on the ground? As I said, I'm finding difficulties in monitoring those funds in the province. And how effective will the Department of National Planning monitor the project's implementation to its complete stage? One good thing that was done was the funds were given to the province for Goroka district, and it was properly, Mr. Speaker, it was properly procured. And I'd like to thank the member for Goroka for following the right process, putting it out on tender, and the province releases the funds. And now it is sealing the roads. And that way, we see project is monitored on the ground and fully implemented. And I'd like to thank member for Goroka for following the right process. So that is my question. And also, can you also tell my people that the department will fully be on the ground to ensure this project is implemented? Otherwise, I want to thank this government for the release of those funds. Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the good governor for Eastern Highlands for his 3 questions that is raised. I think one, the issue that is flagging, one is an issue of monitoring and evaluating projects that we fund from national agencies. One, Mr. Speaker, you can appreciate yesterday's debate when we talked about road allocations and provincial road allocations and district road allocations. Now, these questions brings to light the reality of the dynamics that works between governors like yourself and your open members. And that is something that is evident as we've been in this floor, in this parliament, in this term. One, when we have PIP projects reflected in the budget, governors, through you, Mr. Speaker, like the governor of Eastern Islands, will identify that this is my road, this is the submission I did for this particular road. But at the same time, if it's a district that's within its province, for example, if it's Lufa Road or Enganofi Road or any other road, the member would say, no, that's the same submission I did for that particular road as well. So sometimes when there is no good cooperation between governors and members, it becomes an issue. So that's one issue that I've faced, and I think his question brings to light that issue that sometimes we need to clearly identify what type of roads provincial governments take custody over and what type of roads district members take custody over. So I think we had an agreement in the Lolowat understanding that one, provincial roads are roads that connect two districts. District roads are district roads within a single district. So what we've done in this budget, and I'm thankful for this House for passing our budget yesterday, was that provincial road, you may classify them when you're trying to build a road between Lufa, Okapa, and Kainatu, that is a provincial road. If it is a road between Goroka and Goroka alone, it's a district road. So one, in terms of his questions, funding submissions that coming through at the Department of Planning, one, that is the ongoing issue that we had, and I want to place on record my thank you to the Minister for Works. It has not been territorial. One, we had an understanding that Department of Works will now just concentrate on Connect PNG roads, national roads, and ongoing maintenance. All district roads will now be captured in Department of Planning. All provincial roads will be captured in provincial budgets. So we send your money straight to your provinces, and we send the money for districts straight to the districts. So we don't create an issue when we want to dispense or implement the budget. So, Governor, I thank you for your question. One, we had this issue, and now we've rectified it in the budget that we passed yesterday. So when you see for next year, your roads for provincial roads will come straight to you, and to create less tension between you and your members, the district roads will go straight to the districts, and we've created the threshold for them to go to 5 million. So now they can expend above 2 million and go up to 5 million, and through NPC process, the district members can concentrate on the district roads, while you governors can concentrate on the provincial roads, and national department can concentrate on Connect PNG and national roads. So that is the general understanding that we have now going forward, and I thank your question so that I can explain a bit in detail on how we frame this going forward. Number two, Department of National Planning. How do we monitor projects on the ground when we fund them? Mr. Speaker, I must admit that we lack capacity. When you look at the number of roads, for example, yesterday when you passed the budget, we have 131 district roads. Do I have the manpower or the capacity to go and monitor? In previous years, no. And sometimes when we get implementing agencies to go and see if the actual work has been done, one, if we're not doing the work, sometimes we get officers who are trying to monitor the work or do reports. We bring them in, and sometimes the report a bit biased that, the work has been done when actually the work is not done. So in the next budget, in this budget, we've allocated a funding for monitoring and evaluation component. So we outsource the function of monitoring and evaluation to an independent body. So they can go and monitor the work that is done, and they can give us a report that is not biased or anything to do with government as we follow those funding. So I thank the Governor for those series of questions. Going forward, that is how we are structuring it, so we don't have any issues in terms of dispersing and implementing our budget. And I thank the Governor, and I thank him for facing these questions. And if there's any other issues, we look forward to working with him and his provincial government to ensure we continue the work we're doing in Eastern Islands. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Esala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I direct my questions to the Honourable Prime Minister, and this is in his capacity as the Chairman of the Ombudsman Appointment Committee, the Ombudsman Appointment Committee. Mr. Speaker, I want to express that this is one of the highest committees in the land, being composed of the Chief Justice, the Leader of the Opposition, the Prime Minister, and yourself, the Speaker, and of course the Chairman of the Public Services Commission. This is the committee that is responsible for the operation of the Ombudsman Commission. Right now, the Ombudsman Commission needs attention. It needs attention in terms of its effectiveness of what it's doing, its discharge of its functions. First question I wish to raise is, can the Prime Minister explain why the Ombudsman Commission is operating with 2 commissioners only instead of 3? Secondly, can the Prime Minister explain whether or not the appointment of the Chief Ombudsman took into account considerations under the Constitution, especially Section 254 of the Constitution, which is a guide for an important office like that, where the Constitution itself says that in the appointment to important offices, consideration must be given to the fact that persons so appointed are not from the same area, or same province, or same place.
Listen, take a look.
Thirdly, from the records that's available to us on the side of the House, the appointment of the Chief Ombudsman was not without controversy. And we are aware of the advice provided by the State Solicitor and also the Chief Justice, recommending that disciplinary action or investigation take place. My question in that regard, Mr. Speaker, to the Prime Minister, is whether the Chief Ombudsman has been referred for investigations by the Ombudsman Commission or the tribunal set up under organic law called the Tribunal on Rights and Interests of Constitutional Office Holders. If that referral has not been made, can the Prime Minister give an undertaking that the Ombudsman Appointment Committee be convened so such a decision can be made, so that whistleblowers and people who have given complaint against this particular individual can be rest assured that we are all about transparency at the highest level in our country. Thank you.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank the member for Esala for this important question. And just, I stand to be corrected, but a little bit of a correction on his reference that the Speaker is in that appointments committee. Mr. Speaker, I stand to be corrected. I don't think Speaker is in that Ombudsman's appointment committee. The Ombudsman's appointment committee is chaired by the Prime Minister, but the opposition leader, the Speaker of, I beg your pardon, the Chief Justice, and the Chairman of the Parliamentary Appointments Committee are on the committee that appoints the Ombudsman Commission. Mr. Speaker, coming to the issue on when the third appointee be filled, the Ombudsman Appointments Committee said last, and in that sitting, I think it was the opposition leader was represented by the deputy opposition leader, then the Honorable Dr. Marat. We said last in the last meeting for an appointment of the third person. A very distinguished female senior lawyer was appointed. Set criteria and prescription for the appointment of the Ombudsman commissioners, including the Chief Ombudsman. It's not these four four-member committee having a discretion of their own. We all come to the table. The process would have funneled to us the recommendations, including the merit-based appointment process that kicks in, that is run by the Public Service Commission. And then the Secretariat sets up the agenda for us to discuss. And there was a very fine senior Papua New Guinean female lawyer who was appointed, but she respectfully declined the appointment. She's from the New Guinea Islands region. She declined that appointment, and I think the appointment has gone back through the process, and we are waiting for the process to be completed for the third Ombudsman Commissioner to be appointed. Now, on the issue on the referral for the Ombudsman, Chief Ombudsman Commissioner, I am not at this stage equipped to inform this House on what this issue is about. My office is not adequately being informed or briefed on this. In fact, I stand to be corrected, but I don't recall an investigation or a referral for that matter. And so I will come back to Parliament or write back to the leader and inform the country, because the question is asked. The country needs to know on this matter. I will get back in due course as to whether there's a complaint on foot, there's an investigation on the present Chief Ombudsman Commissioner, and the public will be informed in due course, including a letter to the member for Esala in that regard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor Blogal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my series of questions are directed at the Minister for Fisheries, but since he's not here, may I ask the Prime Minister to see if he can take the questions and make a commitment to respond at a later date. Mr. Speaker, my questions relate to a conversation that I've been having with the Minister for Fisheries, and this is in respect to two fishing vessels called Caps 1 and Caps 2, owned by a South Korean national through his company, United Fisheries. Prime Minister, these two vessels are licensed this year to fish in an area called Dogleg in Western Province on the borders of Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and Australia. 3 years ago, Prime Minister, Caps 1 was caught by the Australian authorities illegally fishing in Australian waters. Prime Minister, this vessel was confiscated and brought, I believe, to Cairns, where our own Foreign Affairs Department officials and NFA officials negotiated for that vessel to be returned back to Papua New Guinea, and the Korean national and the company fined. Caps 1 was caught between the 1st of October to the 8th of October and reported to be fishing in Gulf Province waters. Gulf Province waters are 200 to 300 kilometers away from a dogleg area. And the vessel was caught on its transponders, and the information was passed to me. And I therefore contacted the minister, and it was confirmed that the vessel had been fishing illegally in our waters. The result of this is that the vessel was recalled, and when it came back, a catch of over 100 tons of lobsters have been confiscated now and are waiting at the old wharf for us, the state, to make a decision to be brought ashore. Lobster is a bycatch of the prawn trawling industry in Gulf Province. and all bycatches are the property of the provincial governments and the local level governments in whose waters the bycatches are caught. So my question is very simple to you, Prime Minister. One, can you turn over, the state turn over, the bycatch that has been illegally caught in Gulf waters to the Gulf provincial government? That's my first question. Second question is, this particular company and the boat has been caught in Australia illegally fishing. The state took the responsibility 3 years ago to have it released back to PNG, where it has now been caught illegally fishing again. What is our government going to do in applying the penalties? Are you going to take the boat away because it's been caught illegally fishing in Gulf when it should be fishing in the dogleg area in the Western Province? And thirdly, as I said, more importantly, can you organize for that, for the bycatch with national fisheries to be turned over to the Gulf provincial government, and to also defray the costs of the operations especially of the officers? And I want to thank the NFA, especially those officers who, under duress, provided information so that we stopped at least one example of illegal fishing in our waters. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me thank the Governor for asking this important question. Firstly, on the second question, we don't encourage illegal fishings, and if it is confirmed that these are illegal fishes, fishermen, illegal fishing ship doing illegal activities, then NFA was already instructed to terminate their license forthwith and for us to initiate the due processes. We are not a country for business partners to come in and to break laws, whether in the fishing space or any other space, forestry included. And so instruction has already been given to NFA to look at the operations of that company, and if there is illegality associated with it, then termination of license forthwith. On the issue on the catches being passed on to Gulf, NFA again has been instructed to look at law as it is, and if it can be done, then it will be done. And later on during the day, I will get back to you, Governor, on what NFA is doing on this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Governor Isivik.
Mr. Speaker, my questions without notice are directed to the Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, as we know, due to the hacking incident that affected the IFMS software, most provinces and I think districts were not able to operate or pay anyone for about 2 months. And in the case of ECPIC, we managed to transfer the funds on Friday, and we are in the process of clearing out what we owe to the people who have provided goods and services to the province. And given that the close of accounts, I understand, is probably going to be happening in about 2 weeks' time, that gives a background to my questions. My first question is that, is it possible for the Finance Department to extend the close of accounts to give everyone time to clear out the creditors that we all owe leading up to the end of the year? That's the first question. The second question is in relation to outstanding warrants to my province particularly, but I understand some other provinces may be affected. I have written a letter requesting that the 47 million in PIP and various grants owing to my province be paid to the province before the close of accounts. I would like an assurance from the Minister that these cash payments will be made before close of accounts. I'm a little bit concerned because at the end of the year we tend to sweep all the funds together during the close of accounts, and those monies get shifted to other priorities. So could the good Minister assure the people of ECPIC that the funds promised to them in the 2021 budget will be remitted before close of accounts, and perhaps the same assurance can be given to the other 20 provinces and the special region of Bougainville. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the first question, accounts will be closed 31st of December of this year. And hopefully we will have a short space of time to close accounts and to roll over into next year. That is for the information of the people of Isipik, as well as all the leaders represented here on the floor of this parliament, and also for our service providers who provide us those services and the need to paying them. Mr. Speaker, insofar as provincial grants, provincial PIPs acknowledge the fact that the Isipik governor has alluded to a 47 million kina outstanding, I can commit to the governor that finance will work very closely with the Department of Treasury and the good Minister for Treasury. As we go towards the close of accounts, we will see to what we can be able to pay out to provinces insofar as what we owe them in our appropriations for this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You may got supplementary. What's a supplementary, Honourable Governor?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My supplementary is in relation to the issue of the ransomware attack. My questions will be very brief. Can the Minister explain whether there was actually a ransom that was asked? That's the usual purpose of a ransomware attack. Can the Minister also inform us if he intends to carry out a cybersecurity audit, and if so, when? And can the Minister then inform us as to when the IFMS system will be up and running, or if it's not going to be up and running, then what will the alternatives be? And also, Mr. Speaker, I want to point out that all provinces have issues with functional grants. So if they're going to make an arrangement to pay Isipik province their functional grants that are outstanding, can they also make sure that functional grants for all provinces are paid before the end of the year? To be fair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the good Governor for Oro for his important questions. Question number one, no ransom was asked. When we had the hacking of the IFMS system, yes, a cyber security audit. Mr. Speaker, I must inform the Parliament that the National Intelligence Organization under the Department of Prime Minister is taking courage, providing leadership to the investigations. Mr. Speaker, I'd rather the National Intelligence Organization independently get an independent IT organization to enter into a cybersecurity audit in the Department of Finance. Mr. Speaker, when Finance was asked to take lead of the investigations, I did not want my department to take the lead, simply because I wanted to protect the integrity of my office, the integrity of the department, the integrity of the officers engaged in the department. We wanted to keep the investigations independent so as to protecting any negative perceptions insofar as an independent investigation and audit for that matter is concerned. I know that the National Intelligence Organizations is progressing well, and sooner or later, as soon as funding is made available to them, they will be able to recommend or engage an independent cybersecurity audit into the hacking that occurred recently. Mr. Speaker, work is in progress, however, answering the third question. Insofar as the IFMS system is concerned, Mr. Speaker, upgrading, protecting the system going forward is a work in progress, but there are other alternatives that are under consideration for a new system or for us to revert to the previous system, Mr. Speaker. However, at the present time, there are alternative arrangements, as we all know, progressing and are progressing well insofar as for our districts, our provinces, and our national entities to be able to access funding and be able to pay for any services that are rendered to them. Mr. Speaker, answering to the good Governor for ECPIC on his questions, answering number 4 question from the good Governor for Oro, yes, the answer is related to all the provinces. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All honorable members, I'm asking me to talk for 5 minutes and me come to Harem 1 finish. Mr. Clark.
The Treasurer gives notice that he shall present a bill for an act to amend the Central Banking Act 2000. The Treasurer further gives notice that he shall present a bill for an act to amend the Regulatory Statutory Authorities Appointment to Certain Offices Act 2004.
Papers. Minister for Environment, Conservation and Climate Change.
So there should be. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to statutes, I present the following treaty documents. A, Doha Amendment to the Kyoto Protocol, and B, Statute of the International Renewable Energy Agency, ARENA. Mr. Speaker, I now ask leave for the Parliament to make a statement in connection with the treaties.
Leave granted. Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It gives me great pleasure to present to the National Parliament today the notice to ratify the Doha Amendment to the Kyoto Protocol. The background. The Doha Amendment refers to the changes made to the Kyoto Protocols in 2012 after the first commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol concluded. The amendment adds new emission reductions targets for second commitment period 2012 to 2020 for participating countries. The Doha Amendment establishes the protocol's second commitment period from 2013 to 2020. It was adopted by Decision Number 1 CMP 8 at the 8th session of the Conference of the Parties, serving as the meeting of the parties to the Kyoto Protocol, CMP 8, in Doha, Qatar, in 2012. The amendments will enter into force when 144 parties, or 3/4 of parties to the Kyoto Protocol, have submitted the instruments of acceptance to the depository. On 21st December 2012, this Doha Amendment was circulated by the Secretary General of the United Nations, acting in his capacity as depository to all parties to the Kyoto Protocol in accordance with Article 20 and 21 of the Protocol. Pursuant to Article 21, Paragraph 7 and Article 20, Paragraph 4, the amendment is subject to acceptance by parties to the Kyoto Protocol in accordance with Article 20, Paragraph 4. The amendment will enter into force for those parties having accepted it on the 19th day after the date of receipt by the depository of an instrument of acceptance
by at least 3/4 of the parties to the Kyoto Protocol. This means that a total of 144 instruments of acceptance are required for the entry into force of the amendment. On 17 January 2018, the President of COP23 CMP13/CMA 1.2 and the Executive Secretary of the Climate Change Secretariat issued a letter to the parties to the Kyoto Protocol urging them to accept the Doha Amendment as soon as possible. Mr. Speaker, in paragraph 5 of Decision 1/CMP8, the CMP recognized that parties may provisionally apply the amendment pursuant its entry into force in accordance with Articles 20 and 21 of the protocols, and requires parties intending to do so to provide notification of any such provisional applications to the depository. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, in accordance with paragraph 6 of the same decision, parties that do not provisionally apply the amendment under paragraph 5 will implement their commitments and other responsibilities in relation to the second commitment period in a manner consistent with their national legislation or domestic processes as of 1 January 2013 and pending the entry into force of the amendment. Mr. Speaker, on the status of the ratification of the Doha Amendment, as of June 20, 2020, 140 parties have deposited the instruments of acceptance. Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Papua New Guinea's status as it is. On a later dated 17th January 2018, the COP presidency of COP23 CMP13 CMA 1.4, His Excellency Frank Bainimarama and Excellency Patricia Espinosa, Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, urge all governments who are parties to the Kyoto Protocol to accept the Doha Amendment as soon as possible. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Papua New Guinea shared a view with all parties that pre-2020 implementation and ambitions are of the utmost importance. Entry into legal force of the Doha Amendment to the Kyoto Protocol is a valuable part of global climate action for the years leading up to 2020 and critical for the rigorous and successful implementation of the second commitments period. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Papua New Guinea will ratify the Doha Amendment of the Kyoto Protocol that will commit parties, especially the Annex 1 parties, to contain the emission of greenhouse gases and reaffirming its stand on climate action globally. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the second commitment period, that is 2013 to 2020, of the second Kyoto Protocol, or now called the Doha Amendment, includes new commitment of parties to the protocol to take drastic action for this commitment period and to revise its list of greenhouse gases to be reported. Mr. Deputy Speaker, ratifying the Doha Amendment will now reaffirm Papua New Guinea's commitment to climate action by highlighting the government's climate plan to be taken that are stated in our action documents, such as the Vision 2050, the Medium-Term Development Goals number 3, and the National Determined Contributions, or NDC. It will also encourage other developing countries, mainly Pacific Island countries, if not yet ratified, to undertake this approach in order to attract investment from developed countries to implement our plans as stated in the current NDC, or National Determined Contributions, and the current amended NDC, which is scheduled to be submitted to the UNFCCC in December 2020. In actual fact, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Papua New Guinea was one of the first few countries in the world to do so, and it was launched by our Prime Minister, the Honorable James Marape, on the 18th of December 2020. The Kyoto Protocol is based on the principle of equity and common, but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. It places obligations on developed nations, Annex 1 countries, to undertake mitigation targets to reduce emissions and provide financial resources and technology to developing nations. Thus, developing countries like Papua New Guinea have no mandatory mitigation obligations or targets under the Kyoto Protocols. The ratification will now pave way for the country to negotiate future investment in our mitigation actions, which is, of course, can be achieved as per our NDC. Members, through you, Deputy Speaker, honorable members, I seek your pursuant to support in endorsing the ratification of the Doha amendments to the Kyoto Protocols. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The question is that the question be put. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The Honourable Minister for Environment and Conservation.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I seek leave of the Parliament to move a motion without notice.
Is the leave granted? Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker and Parliament. Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I move that in accordance with Section 117, Subclause 5A of the Constitution, this Parliament waives Sections 117, Subsection 3 of the Constitution, which requires a treaty document to be presented to the Parliament for at least 10 sitting days before Papua New Guinea can be bound as a party, insofar as that provision applies to ratification. Of the status of the International Renewable Energy, IRENA. Okay, sorry. Okay. So yeah, this one, yeah. This one, huh? Okay. Okay, sorry, Speaker, which is the one that I need to press? Thank you. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the provisions applies to ratifications are that A, Doha amendments to the Kyoto Protocol, and B, Statute of the International Renewable Agency, IRENA.
Honourable members, the motion must be supported in an absolute majority. Sorry, honourable members, the question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favour say aye. Honourable members, the motion here must be supported by an absolute majority of 56 members. Would those in favour of the motion please stand? Those against, please stand. Honorable members, those who voted in support of the motion, 49, noes, 0. The motion is not carried. Is leave granted?
I move that this vote be rescinded and deferred to a subsequent vote. Sitting. Thank you.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Ayes have it. The Minister for Culture and Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to statute, I present the annual report of the Tourism Promotion Authority 2019.
Minister, make your speech. Oh, sorry, all members. Minister, you have to.
Mr. Speaker, I ask leave of Parliament to make a statement in connection with the report.
Is the leave granted?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am delighted and honored to present to this House the 2019 Tourism Promotion Authority's annual report. Mr. Speaker, this is my first statement to Parliament as the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture. And so, on behalf of my people of Sarmai Muru electorate and my family, I also wish to take this opportunity to thank the Marape Basin government for the trust and confidence in bestowing me this important responsibility as a minister in the cabinet. I commit myself to serve the government of the day and the people of Papua New Guinea to the best of my ability as Minister for Tourism, Art and Culture. Mr. Speaker, I wish to also commend the board, management and staff of the Tourism Promotion Authority for consistently producing a full audited financial report to Parliament as per the legal requirements of the Public Finance Management Act. Mr. Speaker, I am happy to say this is the 16th consecutive annual financial report by the Tourism Promotion Authority since 2003. Mr. Speaker, while the report contains a full audited financials of the authority for the year ending December 2019, it also highlights major tourism programs and activities undertaken throughout our beautiful country, Papua New Guinea, in those 12 months. Mr. Speaker, as we are all aware, the coronavirus pandemic devastated the travel and tourism industry in the late part of 2019 and continues to this day. This has greatly affected the global travel and tourism industry worldwide, and I will expound on this in the end part of my speech today. Mr. Speaker, the performance of Tourism Promotion Authority is generally measured by the total number of international visitor arrivals to our country in any given calendar year. Therefore, in 2019, Papua New Guinea received a total of 210,000 international arrivals, which was an increase of 8% or 16,000 visitors more than the 194,000 international visitors in 2018. Most of these visitors were on business and leisure visits through air, travel, and cruise ships. Mr. Speaker, I must alert Parliament at this juncture that we may not see any such increases in 2020 onwards, given the ravaging impact of COVID-19, which has not only affected air travel, but has completely shut down the cruise tourism sector. Mr. Speaker, before November 2019, Papua New Guinea had a thriving cruise tourism sector visiting remote islands, atoll, and archipelagos in our beautiful country. These cruise ships were not only bringing in large volumes of tourists, but were more importantly bringing direct cash revenue to those remote and far-flung island communities in Milne Bay, East New Britain, Medan, the autonomous region of Bougainville, and elsewhere in this country. Mr. Speaker, sadly, we will not see such visits by cruise ships in a long while, from now until the situation with COVID-19 is improved and international borders are open and travel restrictions relaxed worldwide. Mr. Speaker, the full financial report and divisional briefs of the Tourism Promotion Authority are fully presented in the 2019 annual report, and I urge all members to take the time to read and appreciate it. Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned earlier, I wish to now touch on the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism sector and highlight some key achievements in my first 6 months as Minister for Tourism, Art and Culture. Mr. Speaker, the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic has decimated the world travel and tourism sector, costing billions of dollars, closing international borders, causing loss of businesses, and leaving millions unemployed worldwide. I must emphasize here that the tourism sector is a major employer of the youth. Plenty of youth are engaged in the tourism sector. All drivers, all waitresses, waiter, all can work, all work inside the tourism sector, in the hoteliers, the remote bungalows. The youths, they are the major employees in this tourism sector. Mr. Speaker, as you would understand, our country, Papua New Guinea, has not been spared by these global purges, and it has greatly affected our international and domestic tourism numbers since late 2019. Many of our local Papua New Guinea tourism operators and businesses have been closed, jobs lost, and many families and households seriously impacted as a result. Mr. Speaker, this is also clearly reflected in the international visitor arrivals statistics to our country in the first 6 months of this year, 2021. After recording healthy growth in the international visitor arrivals to PNG in 2019, international arrivals in 2020 was hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic, and this downward trend is expected to continue in the next 2 years. And who knows, with the current changes, where the virus is now mutating, it will be prolonged. Already in the first 6 months, from January to June of 2021, statistics confirm that there was a 76% fall in international visitor arrivals to Papua New Guinea. Mr. Speaker, this is about 25,000 fewer arrivals compared to the 33,000 international visitors received in the same period last year, 2020. All segments of arrivals, including business, leisure, employment, and others to the country, dropped. A significant drop. The cruise tourism sector in particular, as I highlighted earlier, recorded zero, nil, no arrivals, as there were no cruise ships visiting our country since 2020. Mr. Speaker, while the Marape Basil government has done well, it leveled best by introducing the economic stimulus package for our SMEs and MSMEs. Unfortunately, many in our tourism sector, and especially our cottage industry, have never really benefited to this day. My humble appeal now to the government and to this parliament is to fast-track this process so we can save what is left of our SMEs and MSMEs, particularly in the tourism space. Mr. Speaker, however, this is not to say all is lost for PNG tourism. Nogatia. Not all is lost. No. Mr. Speaker, the Tourism Promotion Authority under my leadership as Minister has been working very hard to maintain some consistency and flexibility in the tourism sector in our country by undertaking some major impact projects. This includes promoting domestic tourism, driving a virtual expo using the internet with our buyers and sellers in Europe and across the globe, developing the first Papua New Guinea tourism satellite account, and also working with other lead government agencies in our country's preparations towards the World Expo in Dubai starting in October 2021. As we are aware, Papua New Guinea has a big domestic tourism market, and TPA has been working with our key stakeholders such as Air Guinea, major hotels and resorts, local tourism operators, and tourism product owners to sell tourism at affordable rates in order to encourage our people to visit other provinces and destinations in this wonderful country of ours. Yes, we go local. We use what we know best, and that is our culture, our environment, promoting tourism. Let's go local. Promote domestic tourism. We can use domestic tourism to promote tourism at these times, in these times, within our country. Mr. Speaker, our biggest challenge in terms of domestic travel has been the high cost of fares, and TPA is currently in dialogue with Air Guinea and National Airports Corporation to reduce fares where possible, particularly the hidden tax components that increase airfares. In the next 6 months, we will be writing to our development partners to seek some technical advice to do an independent assessment and study into the cost and fee structure of our airline industry to understand where we can do reforms to cut down the cost of air travel in Papua New Guinea, or provide subsidy to help stimulate domestic tourism and travel. Mr. Speaker, Tourism Promotion Authority has also gone ahead and introduced the Safe Traveler concept with the formal endorsement of the National Pandemic Control Center. This is basically a certification process of the tourism industry. It is a program aimed at guiding the industry to maintain and reinforce COVID-19 health and safety protocols in the respective establishments, as per the National Pandemic Nuclear Passing Guidelines. TPA has also gone ahead and conducted awareness on the Safe Traveler concept in all the regions of Papua New Guinea, including National Capital District. Mr. Speaker, one of the most significant impact projects currently undertaken by TPA under my ministry in the last 6 months is the development of the first Papua New Guinea tourism satellite account. The tourism satellite account is long overdue for Papua New Guinea as a government and an economy. Tourism satellite account, or TSA, is the standard United Nations approved method of measuring the direct contribution from tourism to the national economy of any country in the world. TPA, in partnership with the National Statistics Office, NSO, and the Bank of Papua New Guinea and other key partners, has been working on the TSA project, which will be completed soon. Once the TSA project is completed, we as a government can now be able to measure the real contribution of tourism to the Papua New Guinea economy going forward. We need to have that measure. Government must know this measure. Then we will understand and realize the significance and importance of tourism as a major contributor to the economy of this country. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to inform this House that the Tourism Promotion Authority's contribution to Papua New Guinea's participation at the World Expo in Dubai is well advanced. It is well advanced. We will not only be showcasing the beauty and diversity of our beautiful country to the rest of the world, but we are also keen on selling Papua New Guinea as a great tourism investment destination so multinational tourism companies can come here and invest in our country. Here we do things naturally, not man-made. Our islands, our shores, our seas, our sun, everything is natural, it's pure, no man-made. Everything is pure. I'm aware that other key entities such as Commerce, and Industry and Investment Promotion Authority, and others will be collaborating with us and pushing the same investment messages, particularly in the areas of tax breaks and incentives for investment in the tourism space. Mr. Speaker, as I address this Honourable House, TPA is also compiling a tourism investment directory portfolio which will be promoted in Dubai. Mr. Speaker, further, one of the highlights of Papua New Guinea's participation in Dubai will be the choreographed performance of Papua New Guinea's traditions and cultures, representing all corners and diversity of our beautiful country. Papua New Guinea is culturally diverse. We have more than 800 languages. We are a diverse country, and we are one of those countries rich in culture. And this is one of the countries in the world that is, I should say, one of the best tourism destinations to visit because of diversity. Mr. Speaker, the projects I mentioned here are all very important projects and programs currently under the Tourism Promotion Authority under my leadership and as Minister. And I would urge the Marape Basil government to continue to support to the tourism sector by way of increased budgetary appropriation for tourism development in our country. I thank the government. In next year's appropriation, we are given 20 million. 20 million. That's a huge increase in appropriation from any government. The previous government, this government will be given 20 million. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, before I conclude, I wish to also inform Parliament that the review Tourism Promotion Sector Development Plan, TSDP, 2022 to 2026, and the Tourism Corporate Strategic Plan, 2022 to 2026, is in its final stages of completion, and it will be my honor as Minister to launch these two important tourism development blueprints, which will strategically guide the development of tourism in Papua New Guinea over the next 5 years. Mr. Speaker, I need the support of all ministers, members of Parliament, both sides of the House, to drive the tourism development agenda, as it is the future in terms of sustainable economic development for our children's future and the children's future. Tourism, we always say that it is a sleeping giant. About time now we resurrect the giant and see what it can do to transform the economy of this country and to be a major contributor to the economy of this wonderful country. Mr. Speaker, for now I comment, this is the 2019 annual report of the Tourism Promotion Authority to this Honourable House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question is that the question be put. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Minister for Civil Aviation.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to statute, I present the annual performance report of New Sky Pacific, formerly PNG Air Services Limited, 2017, 2018, and 2019 report. Mr. Speaker, I ask leave of the Parliament to make a statement in connection with the report.
Is the leave granted? Leave granted, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you and the Honourable Parliament for allowing me to present an overview of the 2017, 2018 and 2019 annual report for New Sky Pacific. The company annual reports presented today have been compiled on time and had been ready every year for presentation to Parliament, but unfortunately due to consecutive ministerial changes, the report have not been presented in the House. Therefore, this ministerial statement in essential cover the performance of the company over the last 3 years from 2017 to 2019. As a brief background, the New Sky Pacific, one of the state aviation enterprise established under the Civil Aviation Act 2000. It is mandated as a sole air navigation service provider in Papua New Guinea, responsible for managing our airspace with a span 1.6 million square kilometers, extending from the sea level up to the 60,000 feet. New Sky Pacific Limited is governed by the board, which is comprised of both independent and ex officio members. The board is supported and advised by 2 special committees on critical technical aspects of the company operations, the Safety Subcommittee and the Audit Subcommittee. New Sky Pacific Limited manages all aircraft movements, both domestic and international, that use PNG airspace, referred to the industry as the Port Moresby Flight Information Region. Mr. Speaker, the air navigation services provided by New Sky Pacific Limited are critical to the effective functioning of PNG's border transport network, which comprises the aviation, maritime, and road transport subsectors. You will agree that the transport sector is a key enabler for social economic development in our country, and as you are aware, our rural communities are isolated because of our country's rugged and challenging geography, and they rely heavily on the transport network for accessibility. Many of us in the House will also agree that the 3 modes of transport, aviation services remain a vital component of the country's transport system, enabling trade, social economic development, tourism, education, health, business, and investment opportunities for our communities. I want to reiterate that air navigation services and air traffic management functions provide the NSPL are most critical of the aviation sector, as these services ensure a safety, effective transport system. The aviation industry, the general public, and the government expect a high level of aviation safety and efficiency, and this is a significant achievement through NSPL, modern aeronautical radio communication, navigations, surveillance, and air traffic management. In simple terms, New Sky Pacific Limited manages PNG's invisible highways in the sky, enabling the users to operate safely. The provisions of the air navigation services includes air traffic management focused on optimum aviation safety for the traveling public. Essentially, this service enables aircrafts to operate at safety distance from each other during takeoff, whilst airborne or upon landing, with the ultimate aim to prevent collision, which not only could result in devastating consequential social impact due to loss of lives and property, but also detrimental to commercial and economic implication. Mr. Deputy Speaker, please allow me to provide a quick overview of the company's modernization program. In 2011, New Sky Pacific developed a blueprint outlining its long-term strategic vision to be recognized by the industry as a leading air navigation service provider within the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. To achieve this ambitious goal, the company embarked on the holistic modernization program after NEC approved in 2013. The modernization program has been the key driver of its development priorities, and that's in New Sky Pacific Limited capacity and capability in a short span of time, enabling it to provide modern and reliable air navigation service within the region. The modernization program is aimed at streamlining the updating. All aspects of the company's modernization program is aimed at all aspects of a company's business, including its service delivery, workforce, air traffic management and operational system, facilities and technologies consistent with current goal trends and world's best practices. A number of projects under the modernization program has been planned and delivered over multiple years, strategically phased to cater for the number of airports, the number of types of aircraft operated by the airlines, the compatibility and interoperability with other systems operated by neighboring NSPS, and the installation of operational infrastructure at the remote sites, including mountain tops. I'm pleased to inform the House that most of these projects have been successfully completed and commissioned over the last 5 years, while the remaining few are nearing completion, and it will commission as the grand commissioning event expected to be held towards the end of 2021. Mr. Deputy Speaker, due to the time limitations, please allow me to provide the House with an overview of the major limestone achievement over the last 3 years for 2017 to 2018, respectively, under the modernization program. Mr. Deputy Speaker, one of the first projects undertaken under the modernization program is the New Sky ATM project. The project was initiated in 2017 and funded support from the Australian government and counterpart funding from the government of Papua New Guinea. The project cost 12.8 million Australian dollars and replaced the old analogy air traffic management system with a new fully automated state-of-the-art ATM system. The main component of the new system was installed and operationally commissioned just before
the 2018 APEC Leaders Summit. This enable our air traffic controllers to successfully and safe manage the unprecedented number of aircraft movement during the Leaders Summit. The New Sky Pacific ATM project is the core project under the modernization program and provides a modern platform that integrates and processes aeronautical data from the numerous aeronautical radio communications, navigation, and civilian system, and facilitate located throughout the country. The air traffic controllers use the processed information from the ATM system to effectively deliver the air traffic control and management service within the Port Moresby FIR. The key advantage with a fully automated ATM system is, in terms of safety, is that it minimizes human interface, hereby reducing risk associated with the human errors, which is one of the critical cost factors of the aviation accidents and incidents. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the company also installed a new voice communication switch system in 2019, replacing the old version and to complement the new air traffic management ATM system. This was important to improve the radio communication between pilots and the air traffic control towers. The project also includes the introduction of the terrestrial-based civilian system known as automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, which was installed at a number of sites around the country to complement the secondary surveillance radar situated at Jackson's International Airport. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it gives me a great pleasure to announce that this advanced ATM system places PNG well above some of the bigger regional ANSPs, including Australia and Indonesia, and removes any operational limitations within our airspace, allowing the seamless flow of air traffic through neighboring FIRs within the region, thus contributing towards the realization of the international civil aviation goal of achieving seamless borders for the enhanced safety in the global air transportation network. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this second project has been successfully progressed over the last 3 years is the Global Navigation Satellite System air-based approach. This project is fully funded by the Government of Australia, and the contract for the project was signed in January 2017 to the value of 3.4 million Australian dollars. The GNSS project is aimed at introducing satellite-based instrument approach procedures at the 35 airports around the country in order to enable aircraft equipments with technology, GNSS technology, to operate safety and effective in the flight information region. GNSS assists pilots to safely maneuver for landing at night in poor visibility and bad weather. GNSS-based instrument approach procedures for the first 23 airports were designed, published, and distributed to the industry in 2019. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the third critical project undertaken over the last 3 years under the modernization program is the design, supply, and installation of the new aeronautical radio communication facility at Najat, which replaces the old HF system located at Port Moresby. The project is funded by ADB through the Civil Aviation Development Investment Program, CADIP, at a value of 12.9 million US. One of the key revolutionary projects is the construction of a solar-powered multifunctional facility called the Skyload. This iconic building is a pilot project for the company in the green energy. This project is a success, and the company plans to replicate this concept across the other facilities around the country. Additional, New Sky Pacific Limited has invested in using modern, reliable, sustainable, and cost-effective approach to enhance its operations and business by adopting space-based technologies and minimizing the use of ground-based technology. Such as move is justified due to the high cost of maintenance associated with the ground-based facilities due to inclement weather, land ownership issues, theft of equipment, vandalism, and the unreliability of the third-party communication and power supply, which continues to affect the effectiveness performance of the existing ground-based infrastructure and system. The ongoing challenges adversely after New Sky Pacific Limited's ability to effect delivery its service, critical service to the aviation industry. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm therefore pleased to acknowledge the New Sky Pacific bold to move transition from the problematic network of terrestrial-based infrastructure to using the modern space-based technologies to enhance the safety of the aircraft operations within our airspace is highly commendable. Further, that is an initiative that is consistent with our goal to establish a resilient and effective air transport network that links all of PNG to enable access to the flow of the goods and services as stipulated in the Medium-Term Development Plan 2018 to 2022. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the benefits of the company's modernization program are currently being realized not by just New Sky Pacific itself, but also by the industry and the traveling public. The number of incidents attributable to air traffic services have been reduced and eliminated over the past few years, resulting in significant aviation safety outcomes. The modern CNS ATM infrastructure system, as well as the highly skilled modern workforce, have contributed to NSPL pursuit of service and organization's excellence. As a result, the industry benefits from operational effectiveness, efficiencies, which result in reduced operating costs, which includes reduced fuel burns and therefore a reduction in carbon emissions. I'm pleased to inform the Honorable House that the company's endeavor to transit to the modern state aviation service provider by upgrading and modernizing its technologies as well as its business system and practices had a positive impact, with international and regional airlines experiencing an enhanced level of service that is consistent with those provided by some of our larger and more developed countries within the region and beyond. The positive outcome of improved safety and operational efficiency in PNG aviation service standards has created an attractive environment for more international airlines to use our airspace, in turn providing opportunities for more flight service in and out throughout PNG. Mr. Speaker, with great pride and appreciation, I reiterate that New Sky Pacific Limited now has the world-class capability to provide the highest level of air traffic management service for its domestic and international customers. Mr. Deputy Speaker, NSPL is an independent and self-funded entity that operates a cost recovery business model as legislated under the Civil Aviation Act 2000. The company's only source of revenue, therefore, is from the air navigation service fees and charges it collects from the industry. Since inception, the company has been operating on a small but steady revenue. For the past few years, moderate profits were declared as a result of stringent financial management practice. These profits are committed to the following: purpose of meeting contractual obligation for development project contracts, funding the company's components of project, funding internal capital expenditure programs, funding maintenance and infrastructure improvement programs, maintaining the company's recurrent budget. The profits and savings also have been used to make upfront payments for various development partner funding projects where the development assistance arrangement is via the claim and reimbursement approach. Another reason is due to the inconsistent disbursement of funds by GovPNG, where sometimes warrant funds are either reduced upon disbursement of or not disbursed at all. Due to the single source of revenue generation, New Sky Pacific Limited has relied heavily on external partners to fund most of the projects under the modernization program. I therefore wish to extend our government's sincere gratitude to our development partners for supporting NSPL throughout their modernization journey. As part of the NSPL prudent financial management practice, the company has apportioned moderate amounts from its modest annual profit to its reserve for rainy days. The underlying reason is to set aside such savings as reserve in the companies to continue and sustain its mandatory service obligation in the event the only source of revenue is disrupted or cut off. The possible scenario which may severely impact the global airline industry, which may lead to travel restrictions, are terrorism, war, natural disaster, biological incidents, pandemics, etc. The recent example of COVID-19 pandemic, which has severely impacted the global aviation industry, is an excellent case in the point. It is important for this Honourable House to note that in spite of such situations, in accordance with the international and domestic regulatory requirements, the expected level of service as well as aviation safety must be maintained, regardless of whether just one aircraft is operating or 1,000 are operating within our airspace. All the systems and facilities used by NSPL to ensure safety and aircraft operations must all be operational and ready 24/7, regardless of the number of aircraft operating any given time and its fictional operational cost that cannot be reduced by nor negotiated. Mr. Deputy Speaker, NSL prudent financial management practices highlighted in the financial performance section as annual audit reports in the company's respective annual reports for the 2017, 18, and 19. For these financial reports, I'm pleased to inform that the House, despite the negative economic environment over the last 3 years, remains a vibrant and viable company that continues to meet its legal and statutory obligations as envisioned in Civil Aviation Act 2000 as amended. I'm pleased to inform the House 3 annual reports have been endorsed by the 2 shareholders representative of the company, the Honorable Minister for Finance and the Honorable Minister for Civil Aviation during the annual general meeting for the respective years. The endorsement of the AGM demonstrates that NSPL is the highly performance company. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in spite of the fact that NSPL modernization program delivered over the last couple of years, bringing significant benefit to aviation industry and the people of Papua New Guinea, this Honourable House must appreciate, and such development initiatives will require ongoing funding support for the government to sustain them. The past and present government through the National Executive Council are acknowledged for initially endorsing $75.3 million US for modernization program in 2013 and subsequently honoring this decision by continuously approaching funding annual to progress the project. However, the struggles of the company has been received fully requested annually for the government. The actual disbursement to date amounts to 38 million through the annual budget allocation between 2013 and 2019. Despite GoPNG's ongoing funding shortfall, funding from the government, Australia and ADB were released on time with the respective project milestones were accomplished and the arrangements ensure that ongoing delivery of the modernization program. Additionally, the company faced challenges brought about by negative impacts on the business community both locally and globally with the prevalence and the unfavorable economic and official environment. Despite this challenge, NSPL continues to deliver safe and effective air navigation, air transport, air traffic management services and persevere in progressing the modernization program. As alluded to, as main reason for NSPL development over the years due to fostering and maintenance the key partnership both domestic and international. A such example is by being a member of the Civil Aviation Service Organization. CONSO is a global voice of NSPL such as NSPL. The membership with the councils allows NSPL to participate in discussing issues affecting the management of the global airspace, sharing information, networking with the global leaders in the industry, and sharing experiences and past and best practices. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in addition to these functions and responsibility, NSPL maintains its corporate and social obligation. Through its CSO policy, the company has aided various charity programs between 2017 and 2019. The notable support includes contributing to the cross-cutting agendas such as violence against women and women empowerment, fight against corruption, and the healthcare improvement services. The two major CSO activities supported by the company are the exception of the air navigation service fees and charges for aircraft service in rural communities and the provisions of 24/7 search and rescue, alerting and coordinating services at the company's expense. In the accepting the direct air navigation fees and charges, NSPL indirectly puts money back into the operations of the rural airline operators so that they contribute saving the remote rural communities. Over the 3 years, between 800 to 1 million of fees and charges have been accepted for the rural aircraft operators. The SAS alerting the coordination service is the company's contribution to assisting our with many major aircraft incidents and accidents because NSPL aircraft traffic controllers are the first and the last point of contact for the aircraft. At this junction, I would like to highlight that in this context, as PNG is the signatory to the International Convention of the Safety of Life at Sea, the International Convention of Maritime Search and Rescue, and the Convention of International Civil Aviation, we must take immediate action to establish and standalone national search and rescue entity that is appropriate funded and resourced to undertake search and rescue services in PNG. To address this issue, my ministry is working with the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure on the Aviation Policy 2021, where search and rescue is addressed at the policy level. Mr. Deputy Speaker, NSPL has ensured that all course activities as well as the project under the modernization program aligned to the government's key strategy objectives and priorities. All in all, the major policies areas implemented through each program directly or indirectly contribute to the realization of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as well as the GoPNG Medium-Term Development Plan 2018 to 2022, priorities for the quality infrastructure, improved service delivery, service and security, good governance and social development. In concluding, I want to emphasize that the optimized level of service currently delivered by the New Sky Pacific Limited portrays a positive image of PNG capability to the world on the hourly basis as assessed by international airlines that fly through our airspace. It is therefore critical that successive governments continue to recognize the importance of the modernization key aviation infrastructure to remain as per or even exceed the regional and global standards of service and aviation safety excellence, ultimately contributing towards the realization of PNG's Vision 2050. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as a Minister responsible for civil aviation, I hereby commend the New Sky Pacific board, management and the staff on their vision for the nation's airspace and on the efforts in continuing to revitalize and shape a new era in the delivery of air navigation service in PNG. On behalf of the government of Papua New Guinea, as a minister responsible, I commend my ministry to fully support this initiative under the principle of this policy statement.
The question is that the question be put. Those in favor say aye. Ayes have it. Honorable members, I would like to inform the House that by this afternoon, our late colleague member, his casket will arrive from Mount Hagen. We'll be overnighting at the funeral home, and tomorrow, 10 o'clock, the casket and the body will be here at Parliament for all members to show respect to the body. So I ask all members in attendance to Parliament tomorrow to show respect to our late colleague member. The Leader for Government Business.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, me like ask him also, move that you may adjourn in Parliament go tomorrow, 10 a.m. Thank you.
The motion, the question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Ayes have it. Honorable members, I now adjourn Parliament to tomorrow, 10 a.m.